Donald Trump has become the third US president in history to be impeached by the House of Representatives. After a day of bitter debates, the House voted on 2 charges: that the president abused his power and that he had obstructed Congress. The first passed 230 to 197, the second just a vote different to that. Both fell along party lines. Nearly all Democrats voted for the charges, Republicans against. A trial will be held now in the Republican-led Senate, where a 2/3 vote is required to remove the president from office.
The reason we undertook this extraordinary step is because the president not only abused his office, but threatens to abuse it again, threatens to interfere again by inviting foreign interference in our election. The remedy isn't complete as long as the president is free to continue to invite foreign interference in our affairs.
As the decision was handed down, Donald Trump addressed a campaign rally in Michigan. He mocked the proceedings after describing Adam Schiff as a pathological liar.
It's so much fun. They want to impeach you. They want to do worse than that. By the way, it doesn't really feel like we're being impeached, do you? The country is doing better than ever before. We did nothing wrong. We did nothing wrong. And we have tremendous support in the Republican Party like we've never had before. Nobody's ever had this kind of support.
For more on this, let's go now to opinion editor at the Herald Sun and co-host of Outsiders, James Morrow. James, thanks very much for your time. Donald Trump, of course, saying nothing to see here from this perfect phone call. I'm not sure what a perfect phone call is. I don't think I've ever had one. But do we have an equivalent for a US president engulfed in this type of issue or scandal where it was just forgotten? I mean, wouldn't you expect this to be pursued, whatever you think the veracity of it is?
Probably the closest analog we have to this, Tom, is probably Bill Clinton's impeachment. You know, Bill Clinton's impeachment was over his lying over his relationship with Monica Lewinsky to forestall a sexual harassment suit. This is actually even less of a thing than that, because they don't even have an actual charge, a statute that they're saying that Trump violated. You know, they were talking about bribery, they were talking about collusion, they were talking about all of these sorts of things, and now pretty much they've got him on the vibe of the thing. You know, you saw Adam Schiff there talking before, and he said, oh, well, he's done it before and he'll do it again. But we haven't really seen what the thing was before, and we don't know what the thing is again. You know, the collusion thing all fell apart. The Mueller report said no collusion, and then the Inspector General's report into how that investigation was conducted shows that, in fact, in a lot of ways, the FBI really compromised themselves in trying to get Trump. Now they're trying this Ukrainian thing, but the hearings that they held in the House, they were all about, oh, well, you know, he was changing foreign policy. Essentially, they're trying to criminalize his changing of foreign policy. So insofar as all of that goes, I don't think they have anything. This is a big, I think this is a big political mistake for the Democrats, because, you know, most Americans don't want this to go forward. Even Democrats are starting to rethink this. But there's that hardcore of haters who, you know, 58% of Democrats in November 2016, just after he was elected, wanted to see Trump impeached. So to most people, this really looks like an effort by the Democrats to overturn a valid election in 2016 and get a do-over.
It seems a lot of people are not convinced about sort of categorical evidence, but just to step through what we do know, it feels a bit like, I guess, a circumstantial case. Military aid to Ukraine was blocked before a Trump phone call. He did in that phone call urge an investigation into the Bidens, a political enemy of his. Ultimately, aid was restored. I'm not saying that there's, you know, it was Mrs. Maple in the library with that, but...
So there was a temporary hold on military aid. There was no actual thing in the phone call that we've seen, though, saying, you know, that he's demanding that investigation. The talk about the investigation is coming from the other side. So the whole thing is, you know, there's no sort of, you know, quid pro quo on that. But there's also another question here, too. Is it wrong for the president to, you know, ask for an investigation of somebody who's potentially politically corrupt? And you can't just say, oh, because this guy's a potential rival down the track, that that person is then somehow, you know, immune to being looked at.
But what, I guess the question is there, isn't it up to a country to investigate however they'd like to? Why would a president say, look into this person, and that's why the link's drawn back to an enemy of his?
Well, because countries who are working together on all sorts of things work with one another and ask each other to look into things, look into the conduct of their own citizens in those countries. You know, Australia, we
Not
would be
usually
doing
leader to
this
leader,
with
though,
countless.
is it?
So, well, see, and this is what you're getting to, Tom. It's a stylistic thing, and you know, so Trump is a hands-on guy. His whole style. He's a real estate developer. He's a property developer, and his whole thing has always been, you know, he talks to the guy down on the site about whatever the problem is. This is sort of what this kind of feels like to me. You know, traditionally, and I've spoken to people who've worked in previous administrations, both Democrat and Republican, this sort of thing would go on, but there would be a layer of buffers between that request and the government-to-government interface. So you're talking really just about a matter of style here. But what, again, this goes back to, Tom, this is not so much about whatever this collusion is or this, it's about Democrats simply trying to undo the results of 2016.